Hey guys, it's Vaughn and I'm glad you're here. Today we are going to get into some Autism Mom content. If you're new, welcome. Again, my name is Vaughn and this is a beauty and lifestyle home kind of family channel, but I am an autism mom first and foremost. So about once a month, I like to share another step in my autism mom journey. I do think that my journey is a little bit unique in the sense that I am a first-time mom and also a first-time special needs mom. And when I found out that my daughter was on the spectrum, I turned to the internet to look for information and to find other people that I could relate to, and I didn't find much. And ever since then, I've kind of made it my self-appointed, so to speak, duty to share everything that I've learned with hopes of reaching other women of color, being a voice, and helping them to become advocates for their children in the same way that I did. So I basically created the community that I was looking for. So yeah, if you can relate, definitely subscribe to my channel. There are more videos like this coming your way. I have an entire Autism Mom playlist. Some of the videos are more casual vlog style where I'm kind of just taking you guys through our day-to-day, and some are more like sit down kind of semi-formal chats like this one. I will link that playlist for you so you can check it out and get yourself caught up with our journey. But today we are going to get into a topic that I think is extremely important, and that is autism and discipline. At this point in our journey, especially as my daughter Anne is getting older, it's becoming increasingly important to kind of identify and define kind of what discipline means for us in our household, and also figuring out ways to kind of educate the people around us so that they are on board on the same page. I had kind of touched on this subject matter in a previous vlog, and based on the responses that I got in the comments, it really showed me that there is definitely an opportunity to speak about this kind of stuff from a person who is experiencing it. I think it'll be very helpful to kind of have those kind of conversations with you guys. So I want y'all to like the comments up, okay? Make sure that you are expressing yourself and you are sharing some of the things that you may have learned in your personal experience, because that is the only way that we're all going to grow in this. When it comes to discipline, right, when we're talking about special needs children, the most important thing that I want people to know is that that's going to look different for every single child. Discipline in general, I think, is pretty complicated for parents, but it becomes increasingly difficult when you start to talk about a child who may have some intellectual or physical disabilities. A lot of times with autism, we have these behaviors that the children exhibit, and a lot of times they're confused with misbehaving. And these behaviors can range, right, anywhere from the more violent, disruptive exhibitions to a child that is simply just not responding to simple commands. Anne, sit down, mommy. Anne, sit down. Anne, sit down. I think the important thing for us was to kind of look out for opportunities where we could insert discipline. There is a such thing as trying to introduce it too early. You know, my daughter is developmentally delayed, right? She's nonverbal, so she's not able to communicate vocally with us. And we've had to, over the years, kind of come up with alternative methods of communication for her. And it can really become a challenge trying to figure out when to kind of insert those moments of discipline. So as you guys probably know, discipline is not something you're just born with, right? It has to be taught. So in instances where children have learning disabilities, it's a little bit more difficult to try and teach them how to, compromise, how to be rational about the things that they're doing. It can become a little bit tough. What I do want to do is break down really quickly some of the behaviors that we are currently encountering with my daughter Anne, because what we're not going to do is sit here and try to make believe that there are not problem behaviors that she exhibits, and that we're not faced with those tough decisions sometimes as to how to correct some of these behaviors. So lately, one of the biggest issues that we've had with Anne's behavior is the kind of repetitive behaviors, right? So she'll get interested in a certain thing, right? A certain activity, and it might be a destructive activity, and she'll just keep on doing it no matter how much you try and distract her from the behavior, no matter how much you try to, of course, try and speak to her and tell her no. She'll just keep on doing these behaviors every time she gets a chance to do them. And one of them is, the tearing up of books. This is something new that she has started. She has always had an interest in her books, and we would notice that she would kind of flip through the pages quite often. But nowadays, she's flipping through the pages all right, but she's also tearing them out of the book. She's ripping the covers off. She is destroying her learning materials. This is very frustrating for us, and it had actually gotten to the point where I had to remove the books from her sight completely. So I had to go into her room and pretty much strip her bookcase and put all of the books in a place where only I knew where they were. Because trying to take the books from her, trying to tell her no over and over again, these were all futile attempts. She's been throwing her food, right? So when she goes into these sort of temper tantrums, whatever she's holding, she'll toss it up in the air, whether it's her $500 iPad or her $2 chicken nuggets. She's throwing it. Very destructive behavior. Another one is her playing a little too rough with our 110-pound Cane Corso, which you guys may know is an Italian Mastiff, all right? It's one of the biggest dogs to exist in modern day, but also one of the best pets to own. Very obedient, very good dog. But anyway, the way that Anne plays with her sometimes, she is provoking her, you know, and this can create, of course, as you can assume, a very dangerous kind of hazardous situation. She's had quite a bit of potty accidents, right? We are still in the process of wrapping up her potty training, you know, learning experience, and she's been doing really, really great with it. She hasn't had any accidents at her therapy center, but she comes home and she has quite a few accidents here. And the accidents that are occurring almost seem to be playful on her part. It almost seems as though she's trying to see how far she can go. She's trying to see if she can provoke a certain reaction out of me or her father. So, and these are all assumptions that we're making as her parents, right? This is not something we can prove that she's trying to do. It just kind of comes off that way to us. And then finally, the repetitive behaviors, right? So the things that she is doing, like the tearing up of her books constantly, even though she sees that it's getting a negative reaction out of us, she continues to do it, and there's really no stopping her unless we, you know, take the items out of her reach. And also the climbing onto things and jumping off of things, because she loves to free fall from furniture. So those are also some problem behaviors as well. But I said all that to say this, right? In some instances with neurotypical children, you would probably intervene, whether it be, you know, physical discipline or, you know, verbal lecturing or time out or whatever these tactics are that people do. I always knew before I even became a mother that I would never partake in the physical discipline part. That's my choice as a mom. But even with the other options, it can be hard, you guys, because what does time out mean to a child that already prefers isolation anyway? If I put Anne in a timeout corner, it's not going to faze her because she's technically kind of on timeout all the time anyway, because she likes to be alone and secluded. So it's not really much of a punishment for her. And of course, telling a nonverbal child no, who may or may not be able to even process language in that way, might not work either. And I think also in some cases with children on the spectrum, they may have a little bit of a difficult time like processing like your facial expression and really understanding whether or not you're happy with their behavior. You may run into some challenges there as well. So the key in all of this is truly, truly going to come down to patience and really just understanding and knowing who your child is and what the best methods will be for you guys. What I found with Anne is that we have to get repetitive with her. I feel like she understands the language of repetition. So if it takes us having to remove something from her grasp kind of over and over again, that is something that we'll do. If she continues to reach for something, we will continue to take it from her and just kind of repeat those steps until she becomes exhausted with the process. What we found with Anne is that she'll technically become frustrated with the constant, you know, struggle to win over and get her way. She'll just, you know, say forget it, and she'll remove herself. And I talked a little bit about this in a previous vlog, but the notion of a child being spoiled. I know in our community, I mean, if I'm just keeping it real, we cannot stand a spoiled child. It's like the biggest taboo. It is a faux pas. And I think I speak for most of the community when I say if a Black mom even suspects that there's a spoiled child in their presence, they will wake up out of their sleep and address that child. We don't play that, right? I think in the instance of my daughter, and some of you can probably attest to this, we've been unable to teach her how to compromise and be rational about some of the things that she may be wanting, and then, you know, it'll result in these kind of problem behaviors. And I think with neurotypical children, where you would be able to kind of teach them, you know, right from wrong and kind of show them what the appropriate behavior is when you're being told no, it's a little bit more difficult to teach it to a child that has all these barriers to learning kind of built up. And that, of course, is just a consequence of their condition. And so in Anne's case, she may exhibit some behaviors that are consistent with being spoiled, but she really technically is not, because she hasn't really been able to learn what the appropriate response is. And me, the type of parenting style that I have, I parent with a lot of compassion. So, you know, and especially, you know, being a special needs mom, I really feel like I don't have a choice. And because for most of her life, she hasn't been able to communicate her wants and needs, we as parents have always just tried to get in front of it and always just be there to, you know, give her what we're thinking that she might want in order to make sure that she's always comfortable. So we probably look like the biggest enablers on the planet, but we really didn't have any other way to respond to a 15-month-old, an 18-month-old, for example, who could not really recognize their surroundings and let you know what they needed, or even if they were hurt, you know? So we've kind of been conditioned to be really proactive parents about whatever her wants and needs could be. But as she is getting older and learning how to communicate in alternative ways outside of vocalizations, like using her PECS booklet to communicate, or just gesturing a lot more to let us know what she needs, things are getting a little bit easier in that department. So with, you know, the special needs parenting thing, you can only control the factors that you can control. Anything outside of that realm, you can forget it. And so what we found with Anne is that she has a really robust kind of affinity for like her favorite snacks and food items. Like that is the one huge motivator for her is the edibles, right? Anne loves to eat. What we've tried to do is reward the positive behaviors that we want to see more of in an effort to discourage some of the negative behaviors. And I think one of the really effective ways to discourage bad behavior with children on the spectrum is to give it no attention at all, to ignore it. Oftentimes, you guys, that will get you the response that you were looking for. Without the yelling, without the hitting, without the pulling your hair out, right? I think we can get to a place of calmness with that child by not giving those negative behaviors a whole lot of energy. So that becomes kind of the biggest difference between neurotypical children and children on the spectrum. A lot of times with kids, you know, when they get to acting up, the parents freak out, you know, we give it all this energy. We really have a tendency to give that behavior a lot of attention, right? Because you need to get in there, you need to correct it, you need to let that child know that that was inappropriate, and then we go from there. But I think, you know, on the opposite side of that with children who have autism, sometimes it's more effective to not give it any attention, right? And that can take some getting used to, especially depending on what you're used to and how you were raised, right? I remember growing up and my mom freaking out, you know, when things would go wrong. And then we knew, like, okay, mom is gonna freak out, better not do that anymore. But I think with, you know, with Anne and a lot of her peers that I've noticed, you know, just from her therapy center, is that when the behavior is ignored, that child recognizes that they are not getting their way and the behavior decreases. But as with anything, this is something that has to take place over a period of time. It's not gonna happen overnight. It's not gonna happen in the first 1 or 2 times that you try this. You've got to stick to it. You've got to be consistent. You've got to meet that repetition with repetition, and you have to keep trying it. I think a lot of what we deal with as autism parents as it relates to our children's behavior is the social aspect of it all. I mean, imagine being at a party with other kids, and I've been in these situations before, and you're trying to deal with your child and all the things that you know that they normally do, but you also have to do that in the presence of all this perceived judgment going on around you. You know, other parents who are not familiar with your child's condition and them judging your parenting skills because them thinking you have no control over your child, or that you are a bad mom, you're not giving your kid any discipline. And I've literally had these kind of things happen to me. Not in my face, but I've heard about it. And I also have an intuition. I can kind of tell when, you know, people are thinking a certain way. Part of that can be my own insecurities. I will admit that. But for the most part, you know, you can tell by a person's facial expression what, you know, what they're kind of thinking. And I do have a lot of insecurities as a special needs mom. Not as many as I had coming into this thing as a fresh green special needs mom, but I do still hold on to some insecurities because at the end of the day, I mean, these kids are the minority, right? The majority of everything else going on around them is happening at a certain pace, and then here comes your child on their own accord. And so it can really create like this kind of anxiety in you, this kind of nervousness, this kind of insecurity when you're out in these public settings. But I do think it is your responsibility, right, as the parent, to create these kind of environments around your child that is in their best interest. And when I say that, I mean making sure that the people who are going to be in close proximity of your child, especially on a regular basis, understand what these behaviors are, understand what your child is going through, and so that they can be prepared and they can react to it appropriately. You know, setting those boundaries, right? You don't want someone around your child who is going to be yelling at your kid when they're doing something that you know they have no control over. You don't want someone around your kid, family member or not, who's going to be administering certain types of discipline that you don't agree with, right? People know me. Listen, everybody knows in my family, you don't hit Anne, right? She does something wrong, you come tell me and we'll figure it out. But you don't hit this child, because what happens is she's not going to understand why she's being hit. She's not even going to be able to make that connection because she hasn't learned how to do that yet. All she's going to know is that this authority figure is hurting me right now, right? And so I don't like that, but I also feel like the bigger picture is that over time, she'll start to develop this kind of tolerance for physical violence upon herself. And the fact that she's nonverbal, I can't have that, you know? I can't have that. So because of Anne's condition, what I want for her is for her to be alarmed by any type of physical pain or physical harm that comes her way. I want her to be alarmed by it. I don't want her to associate that with love because a family member that she loves is doing this to her, because I don't think she's learned how to separate the two just yet, and it'll cause confusion and just a very hazardous situation for her down the line. So again, you know, that's my opinion. No judgment to folks who choose something different for their kids. So please don't judge me for what I've chosen. We're not in this thing to, you know, list what's, you know, this is not about do's and don'ts. You know, there's no absolute answer for any of this stuff, because all of these kids are different. All of the households function differently, and personalities play a part in everything. So I want to make it very clear that this is a judgment-free zone. Like, we're not telling, you know, parents what they need to be doing. But yeah, I think just setting those boundaries for the people who are going to be in your child's life are very important. You know, on or off the spectrum is extremely important. I'll give you guys an example. Actually, just yesterday, my girlfriend was over here, my ship actually, Nikki. I was braiding her hair and we had a really good time. We were bonding and catching up, and it was just a really good moment. And Anne was being Anne, you know, she was running around, you know, this is her castle, you know, running around, jumping off of stuff. She was doing her thing. And I've kind of come to terms with, you know, these are the things that she enjoys to do. And if it's not hurting anyone, she's not destroying anything, I kind of let her do it. And here's why. I'm gonna get back on track in a second, but here's why. I want to just touch on that real quick, because what you guys have to understand is I'm not like this lenient mom that just lets my kid like run all over me. This is what I want you guys to know about me. My daughter has been in a therapy program, a structured kind of clinical setting type of program, ever since she was 15 months old, okay? She was diagnosed with ASD at 18 months, but we started her in, you know, speech therapy and OT and all that stuff at 15 months because we kind of knew, and we didn't want to wait another day. So we, you know, she's been in therapy since she was 15 months. Imagine a child that, you know, most kids don't go to like a structured learning environment until they're like preschool age, or some of them, you know, kindergarten. Anne has been in this kind of setting, being told what to do, you know, having professionals try and steer her right when she really wants to go left. This has been happening ever since she was 15 months. And I feel like as her mom, and I know that about my child, like the compassionate part of my parenting style just comes out. And I'm just like, I feel like I gotta give her some kind of freedom. She goes to therapy, you know, full time, right? When she comes home, I want her to be able to be a kid for once, you know, because they get to play in therapy, but you guys, it is extremely structured, right? She's not really able to play in a way that, you know, most kids are afforded. Very structured. It's very like, okay, we got to do this 20 times. We got to do this 15 times. You know, it's very much so like that. You guys, if you're familiar with ABA therapy, you know how it goes. Sometimes those kids are they just appear to be miserable in those kind of settings. And I know it's what she needs. I know it's going to help her in the long term. But when she comes home, you guys, like, I just want her to be a kid. I want her to experiment. I want her to pull things off of the counter. Like, you know, if she's not, like I said, causing any major damage, I kind of let her do her thing. So back to what happened with my girlfriend when she was over. Anne was like running all around, all right? And then she started to climb on my girlfriend, all right? She started to climb on Nikki. Now I'm braiding her hair, you know, I'm giving her some feed-in braids, okay? So Anne is climbing all on her. And fun fact, actually, my friend, she works in a special needs capacity, right? So she works around children with special needs all the time. So she gets it. So this is a person that I didn't really have to set down any boundaries with necessarily, because she kind of already gets it. She's a mother herself. She works in the special needs community. She gets it. So instead of her shunning Anne and being very abrasive about it, what she did was she put Anne right up on her lap and she held her tightly, okay? She gave her some of that proprioceptive input, okay? And let me tell you something, hon. Anne was loving it, all right? She was feeling it, but she got bored with it real quick, okay? It was no longer fun for her, right? So she went ahead and corrected her own behavior and got the heck off of Nikki and went to go play over there. We didn't have to yell at her. We didn't have to physically move her. We didn't have to do anything. We kind of let her make the decision herself. So pretty much what we did was create an environment that was not so appealing for her anymore, you know? She only wanted to play with us when we didn't want her playing with us. As soon as we were like, girl, get up here. Yeah, let me hold you. She's like, let me get out of here, all right? So she climbed down on her own. And I just love when stuff like that happens. I just feel like, you know, as a kid, she deserves to be able to just run free and just be a kid. Otherwise, I feel like her entire life will just be people constantly trying to get her to do something that she might not necessarily want to do. And it almost feels like a punishment for her condition. I feel like I'm punishing her for having autism. So I can't. I have to allow my child to be a child and just enjoy life at certain moments. And if that means that that makes me a little bit uncomfortable or a little bit annoyed or a little bit frustrated, I think I can deal with it. I mean, imagine everything you did, someone came and told you you were doing it wrong. And imagine that happening year after year after year after year. It would get old pretty quick. And I feel like in those instances, you know, I feel like that's like a breeding ground for anxiety and depression. And I don't want that. It's not uncommon for special needs parents to have really obscure, you know, methods. I mean, I imagine that, you know, for people who don't agree with my parenting style now, will probably not agree with a whole bunch of other stuff if I reveal it to you, because we do things a little differently around here because our daughter is different. And as much as I want her to be as successful in life as possible, as much as I want her to be as typical as she can be, I also accept her for who she is, and I do not have a desire to change her anymore, right? Because I used to when she was a lot younger. I used to think that, you know, I bought into, you know, a lot of the negativity around, you know, finding out that your child has ASD. And I thought that things could change. I was hoping things would change. And, you know, that's not healthy for me either. So I just really felt like I had to get to a point of acceptance, full acceptance, right? Not just acceptance, you know, in the face of society, not just acceptance, you know, to her doctor, but true, authentic acceptance, where I'm taking her for exactly as she is. If nothing ever changes, if she never learns another new thing, I accept her as she is because she is my child. She came from me. She represents me. I represent her. So I had to grow to that point. So, I mean, the learning process, as you can see with all of this, never ends, you guys. Every day is a new step in that journey of really understanding your child more and more every day. I never wake up feeling like I totally 110% get Ann. I get her pretty good. But I also know that development, although disordered, is still happening. So she's likely to be a different child this month than she was last month, right? And I think just as special needs parents, we have to just allow ourselves to take that in. We have to essentially sometimes give ourselves permission to be ignorant, to not know, in order to open up those doors for more information to be received. But like with most parents, I've lost my temper before. I have gotten really angry before at something that Ann may have done. Where the difference comes in at is that I have a lot of humility, and I have no problem, especially with my daughter, checking myself. And I have apologized to my daughter before. And I don't even know if she can understand what I'm saying, but I have done it, right? I have humbled myself on so many different occasions because maybe I assumed something about her behavior that wasn't true. For example, in my last vlog, I don't know if you guys caught this, but Ann had, you know, she was supposed to be having lunch at the table. She left the table, and I found her over by the refrigerator kind of like playing around on the floor. She had her cup on the floor, and I got mad at her. You know, in my mind, you know, I got mad at her because I'm like, why are you putting your cup over here on the floor? Go sit down over here at the table. And then it dawned on me. She was trying to get more water. She was trying to be the big girl that we've encouraged her to be all this time. And she got a little bit distracted in that process. And that's why her and the cup ended up on the floor. But she was trying to get water out of the refrigerator filter dispenser, you guys. So that's just one of those things where I didn't necessarily yell at her or do anything mean to her, but just the thought of thinking, I'm disappointed in what you're doing right now, and I had to apologize to her about that because what I thought she was doing is not what she was doing after all. So I just think those kind of moments of humility and humbling oneself to the process of getting to know your child, who is a mystery of sorts, I think is the most important decision you can make as a special needs parent. And with that, that is all I have today, you guys. I hope this quick little discussion, little chat was helpful. I really understand that I don't have all the answers, but I think these kind of discussions is what helps people to develop the thinking necessary to make their own choices. And I hope that me sharing my story with you guys, my sort of ups and downs and my bad decision making mixed in with my good decision making, helps you guys to be more confident in your approach to parenting. Because I think we all have the chance to be better moms and dads when we're confident in our choices and our methods. So if you guys have any questions, definitely Pop them in the comments. Let me know what have been some of your biggest challenges with your child, special needs or not. Let's talk about it. And I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I hope you will subscribe for future videos, and I will talk to you guys in my next one. Mwah. Bye. Put this stuff back in the container. Put everything back, Ann. Ann, look. Put everything back. Put it back. Put it back, Ann. Ann. Put it back in the container. Put it back. Thank you. How about the hat? Get the hat. Put it back. Thank you. Everything. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ann. Put the goggles back. Ann. Thank you. We don't need to make a mess for no reason, okay?
Chicken wing, hot dog and bologna.